Welcome back to the Den of Nerds. I am Josh, and breaking news, Sadie Sink in Spider-Man 4. This is really crazy, but it gets even more crazy when you think about the rumors of Sadie Sink being Jean Grey. I did a live stream pretty much immediately when this news came out. So what you're about to see in this video, is a section from that stream. But I'm also going to link that stream below because there is a Q&A section that I did where we get into a lot of crazy stuff with the fans about what this could potentially mean. Let's talk Sadie Sink in Spider-Man 4, man. When you see something drop in the Hollywood trades, it's significant, and it usually means it's basically confirmed. Stranger Things star Sadie Sink joins Tom Holland in next Spider-Man movie. This is an exclusive, and they say with production set to start later this year on the next installment of the Spider-Man franchise, series star Tom Holland looks to have a new co-star, one who is no stranger to popular IP. Good one, I guess. Sources tell Deadline that Stranger Things star Sadie Sink is set to join the sequel from Sony Pictures and Marvel Studios. Holland is already set to return as Peter Parker. Marvel and Sony had no comment. Destin Daniel Cretton is directing with Amy Pascal and Marvel president Kevin Feige producing. As for who Sink will be playing, the prevailing theory is that she'll be introduced as X-Men character Jean Grey. But don't count out the idea that she shows up as another beloved redhead Spider-Man character. What is known is that the role will be a significant one, given how the most recent film, Spider-Man No Way Home, concluded with Parker making the decision to complete Doctor Strange's spell that erases his identity to the world. That's actually really interesting. Put a pin in that. It's fascinating that they would put that in the article because of some of the fan theories that are out there. I have all sorts of thoughts here. By staying on track with that plotline, one can expect Holland's old castmates to have reduced roles while newcomers are added to the ensemble, with Sink being the first major new role. This kind of echoes some stuff we've heard in the rumors as well. Holland is currently filming Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey and plans for him to start shooting Spider-Man once he wraps productions on Nolan's picture. We recently heard stuff about that too. Well, apparently, there's going to be a lot of stuff shot with the stunt double or a body double for Tom Holland. He's going to come in, though, and he obviously will be shooting a lot for Spider-Man as well. For Sink, the role comes on the heels of saying goodbye to the part that helped launch her career in the final chapter of Stranger Things, blah, blah, blah. She can be seen in Searchlight's Odessa, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so very interesting here. A couple of things to note. They say co-star. So this is big role for Sadie Sink. Good for her, first of all, but it also means this is a significant character to the plot of the film, like second on the call sheet or whatever. So that's a big freaking deal. They say in the article, I find this fascinating, that the prevailing theory is that she's Jean Grey. Somebody find out, when did the Hollywood trade start dropping theories in their articles? That's kind of wild, just to be honest with you. And I also love that they brought up the spell, Doctor Strange's spell, because that continues to be a big part of where that story is going. Okay, so that's the basics there. Now, let's get into what people are saying out there. What do other people think about this? One thing I want to bring up right away before we break all of this down is, of course, that Jeff Sneider, and I'll pull this up here for you, Jeff Sneider obviously had the scoop several weeks ago that Sadie Sink was going to be Jean Grey, or she was potentially being looked at for the role of Jean Grey. So it's crazy, and they don't credit Jeff for that scoop or anything like that. They don't really confirm that he was right, but it's interesting that they bring up Jean Grey in the article when talking about Sadie Sink. Okay, so a couple of different things. Of course, the conversation is, could she be Jean or not? I've already seen some insiders chiming in to say they don't think she's Jean. Like, I think Daniel RPK came forward and said, I don't think she's Jean Grey, but we'll see. Interesting choice of words there. And a lot of other people think that it's not going to be Jean Grey. Why do they not think Jean Grey? Well, because Jean Grey is an X-Men. That would be pretty freaking crazy. And it's kind of hard to imagine that a character that's potentially linked to the X-Men reboot, the actual X-Men film that's potentially coming in 2027, would debut in a Spider-Man movie, right? That does seem a little weird. And so I can acknowledge how people would consider maybe she's Mary Jane, maybe even Gwen. I mean, she could dye her hair, you know, she could be Gwen for all intents and purposes. I don't think there's anything holding her back from being Gwen. Co-star, we've heard rumors of a romantic lead. That's also potentially another reason that people think maybe MJ, maybe Gwen. But there are actually a couple reasons to think Jean Grey, and that's where it gets really cool. So for me, that's where it's exciting. Number one, of course, Jeff Sneider literally scooped this, and I know there's, Jeff doesn't necessarily get everything right. No scooper does, but Jeff has a pretty good track record. He's also been ahead of a lot of interesting stories as of late, mostly with regards to the X-Men. So that's kind of interesting. I also think Jean Grey could fit because of her power set and the spell. So one of the things that Alex Perez keeps talking about is how the spell that was cast and then was all changed in Spider-Man No Way Home, that brings everybody in, via the multiverse, that spell is going to continue to play a role in not only what's going to happen to the character of Peter Parker, the character of Spider-Man, Tom Holland Spider-Man, but it's also potentially important to the multiverse and something that's going to happen via Battleworld or Doctor Doom. It has big, big implications. That's all we know for sure. But if you think about it, what is that spell? That spell is everybody forgets. It messes with people's memories and mind. Well, one of the things that Jean Grey has is telepathic abilities and potentially incredibly powerful telepathic abilities, perhaps the ability to undo that spell in her own right, which would be kind of fascinating. Okay, so that's kind of wild. And that is also potentially teased by the article. The article literally mentions Doctor Strange's spell, which is fascinating. Okay, now another reason that this could actually be Jean Grey is because Kevin Feige has recently been speaking about how the story that will be told in the next two Avengers movies is going to set up the story for the mutants and the X-Men after Secret Wars. Like, the next saga is basically an X-Men or a Mutant Saga. That's confirmed. But the story of it and how those characters are going to be developed, Kevin has said is attached to the Avengers movies. So even when Jeff first scooped that these characters could be being cast right now as X-Men, like your Sadie Sinks, the Dickens kid, the Butters girl, like all of those people, the reason you're seeing all of that happen potentially right now is because they might be in the Avengers films. The Russos might be casting them and placing them in the Avengers films, or now that we're getting this Spider-Man 4 mention, potentially putting them into the Battleworld movies, okay? And that's maybe the last and best reason to consider Sadie Sink as Jean Grey, because it really seems like Marvel Studios is cooking up Battleworld movies. I mean, those leaks were real. We don't know for sure if Spider-Man 4 is Battleworld with that, medieval Game of Thrones aesthetic, but it absolutely could be, and there's evidence to suggest that it is. So, I mean, dude, think about how goddamn ridiculous this could all be if you start to put it together. What if it's Spider-Man 4, Tom Holland Spider-Man, Battleworld aesthetics, some crazy cosmic villain, because apparently Alex Perez also just said it's not going to be a street-level villain for Spider-Man 4, and then you get X-Men as well? So look, I mean, maybe it's just MJ. There's this thing that happens, and I heard some people talking about this recently, that sometimes Marvel fans, they just go too crazy, and the fan theories and the speculation these days ends up being a lot more entertaining than what Marvel ends up doing. And I think that's like fair, right? But I don't know, maybe I guess I'm just hoping in this example that Marvel's finally like going for it. And there seems to be a breadcrumb trail to suggest that they are actually going for it. That this is going to be fucking X-Men, Spider-Man 4, which is also like, Peter might be in the Venom symbiote. Like, dude, this is crazy. Like, this is really wild. And that's the kind of like juice that I want to see. That's how I think they should be cooking from now on. You look at Daredevil, you look at the Daredevil numbers. I mean, I think it's a great show. I'm having a blast with it. But it's clearly not carrying the interest of, even the main Marvel audience, and potentially not just the big pop culture zeitgeist audience. And we know that exact audience knows of Marvel and has supported Marvel in the past. So it just comes down to this thing for me where I'm personally hoping that Marvel's really turning it up, and that given the choice between MJ and Jean Grey, the choice is obvious. Like, one is way fucking cooler, and it's nothing against MJ or whatever. Like, she's a fine character in her own right. But, like, MJ, man, come on. And you could do interesting things with MJ, too. Potentially some interesting mutant stuff. That could be really, really cool. So, I'm personally hoping that that's the direction that they're going in. And we'll see that we will potentially get other updates as scoopers and insiders come out and say more about this, but that's generally speaking the news and why I personally think she's going to be an X-Men character. So let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. You think she's Jean Grey, or you're like, no way, that could never happen. I'm also going to talk about this on stream tomorrow, so if there are more updates, I will go over that on tomorrow's stream on our streaming channel. Again, that'll be linked below. And as I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.